Wanted to start putting the top on, and wanted to make sure the middle spreaders stayed nice and straight. One, I wanted the screws to fall dead center and not wander off, and also just so that everything, is nice and neat and clean and works. And of course, I'll be slipping the miter saw in this area later, so I need that center area to be perfectly square. Are you enjoying these videos? Do you get anything out of them? Would you like to see me make more? Well, this is your call to action. Drop down in the comments section down below. Give me a comment. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And remember to subscribe. Come on over to thesmartwoodshop.com where you can find out more about us, see some of our projects, and you can also visit my store where you can purchase any of my plans to download instantly, or you can use our Amazon affiliates where you can purchase your tools for the same price they'll give you every day, but they share a little bit with us. I just created these little spacers, just drill a hole in each end so I could clamp them. And I use these on the bottom, so reusing them here. They're just, some scrap wood I grabbed and drilled some holes. Nothing real fancy here other than they're cut to the exact length they need to be to make the exact, spacing to keep them paired. It's like framing, I never grab up a level when I'm framing. When I'm framing walls, I frame things parallel. I lay out the bottom plate and the top plate together. I nail the studs top and bottom right on their lines. Everything is parallel. Everything is in the same spot. Then nail the walls together. A level never comes out until the very end when all the walls are up and everything is stitched together. And then you start plumbing walls and they all come and plumb together. I've seen guys have exterior walls up and then stand up interior walls and try to plumb them beforehand. It's like, nah, you don't want to do that. You want everything parallel. And this is the same kind of thing. I'm not going for distance, for squaring those spreaders to the front. They're attached to the front where they go. And as I start to put the square pieces in, like the bottom and the top, things get pulled into square. So don't jump ahead of yourself and think you're squaring something up, because that's where you can run into a lot of problems. So anyway, just a quick tip there. Hopefully that'll help with not only this project, with others as well. Remember, parallel. Work parallel, not plumb and square. Okay, so we know the top is cut to the proper length, and it is also square. Now I'm just hoping that when I put this on, that I've got everything laid out right and that it will fit edge to edge and be perfectly flush, which it was. And now I know I want to drill the holes to be in 6 millimeters from the edge, because the material is 12 millimeters wide. So I measured it and made a little tick mark at 6 millimeters, and then just put the pencil on that mark with my finger on the edge and just kind of drug it down the edge. Nice way to make a perfectly straight line without messing around with straight edges and things like that. So you can see here, just set the tip of the pencil right on that tick mark, and then set your finger, and you can drag it right along and create a perfectly straight line. Here I created a little spacer. I knew how far apart I wanted the screws to be, and so I'm just laying them on that line and stepping it off just a little quicker than using a tape measure. Okay, with all the holes laid out, little cross marks there, I can take my drill bit and drill the pilot holes through the top. And I'm not drilling into the frame. I'm just drilling through the top, so I've got it kind of pushed away. I'm using the top as basically a sacrificial strip. I've just pushed it away so I don't drill through into it anywhere. And I'm just working my way down and drilling the holes in the wherever the marks are. And you can see I've got it flipped around right now. You can see where I drilled a few holes into where the miter saw gets cut away, but for the most part I've got it marked out. Again, so I'm not doing a lot of extra work or a lot of extra drilling. So now it's time to apply the glue. I've got the center spreaders spaced properly in the middle from the side spreaders. Of course, they're attached to the end, so I just know everything is going to come together when I just take my time and lay everything out right. I don't want to fight things, just want to if you start forcing things, then you need to stop and think about what you're doing. It's really quite easy if you just follow typical common sense steps. And so now I'm just spreading the glue, getting a good coat, and then try to drop the top on so I don't make too big of a mess on the bottom side, which I have to clean up. You can see where the top goes. It goes all the way along the back edge, or the working side of the bench, and it comes right up flush to those notches where the miter stand starts. And I'm just clamping it into place, taking my time, squeezing it down. I just want to make sure before I start putting screws in and glue starts drying that everything is flush and lined up. Of course, my favorite clamp, as you know if you've watched my videos, are these quick clamps from Festool. They aren't the most inexpensive clamp, but I think for me and the value that I get in my time, they are the best deal I've been able to find. I have a lot of the screw clamps too. They're cheaper. They're nice when I got a lot of clamping to do. But in this case, you see some of them being used there. But the quick clamps, I think I have about a dozen of them. They are number one. They're up in the front of my clamp drawer because I will use those all up before I'll dig into any other kind of clamp. Well, after clamping everything up and kind of fighting things, I decided that there was a better way to do it. So you can see I pulled all the clamps and just left them in place. So I started here by fixing a corner. Obviously I knew that was, no matter what the clamping was, a corner would be right. So I marched my way around and just pinned the top down with screws in the proper place. And then after I got the key points done, like the two corners there, then I could just start pulling things into place. Again, I was sort of fighting it. I would have a clamp holding things down. So when I tried to move things, I had to loosen a clamp, and all of a sudden I had 3 or 4 clamps loose, and it was just too much work to try to get it perfectly lined up before I started screwing things down. So I rethought it and just started pinning it down in the key locations and then pulling everything else into place. I know the thing is going to be perfectly square because the top is perfectly square. And the bottom side was a little easier because it was one piece going all the way across. But you can see I pinned the 4 corners, and now I'm working my way through it, using clamps to help me a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be, I wish I had a pointer to point at the screen here, but as you can see that back edge and the edge where the miter notch is, that's a certain specific distance. And when I get one edge straight, because everything has been planned in parallel, it's going to fall right where that miter bench notch is. So again, if you're fighting things, stop, take a breath, think about what you're doing, because it should not be difficult. Okay, with the top, the main part of the top, mostly pinned down, not every screw is in. I'm going to spin the top around so that I can work on the section that I need to work on now. I need to get those middle spreaders completely screwed off. Of course, they are locked into place with those clamps, but I like to double check things. At this point, I want to make sure that the dimension where the miter stand is the same in the front and just a few inches back. Again, we all make mistakes, and the key to success, I think, is discovering your mistakes as early as possible. To do it right, you need to go back. You just don't want to be stacking stuff on poorly done stuff. We always talk about the most important part of a house is the foundation. Square and level foundation leads to a better house. Otherwise, you're fighting it from day one. And so I'm doing the same thing here, making sure the foundation is right, checking square, checking just to make sure that, again, I said earlier, don't pull out the level. Same thing with the square too early. But now we're locking things in and things are pulled into place. And so we want to make sure that spacing, the parallel is right. Is that still square? It is, but I just like to confirm it. Again, if I'm going to make a mistake, if I'm going to have a failure, I want to discover that failure as early as possible. Now that everything is locked down and parallel and square, I can really start sealing my fate here. Everything's going to be locked in. So I'll grab my little block out, getting my screw spacing, and I've already got my line. I know that line is going to fall dead center in the middle of my 12 millimeters. So I won't worry about the screw wandering underneath. And so I've got my straight line. I'm just using my little block there to give me the proper spacing of the screws. Next, we're going to take care of all the detailing on the top, and there's a lot to it. Give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, subscribe, and come on over to thesmartwoodshop.com. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Have a great